Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I recently did a video talking about my favorite baits to create reaction strikes. So some power fishing lures that come through the water column fast and they just tend to generate bites from the fish. And I got a lot of comments from viewers regarding that video as to what some of my favorite finesse baits are. The complete opposite of the reactionary baits are the finesse baits. And man, there are so many good finesse baits. I have to tell you that there are a lot of baits that tend to work across the country all year round. And then there's a lot of baits that I feel like, for whatever reason, dominate on a specific body of water. So what I want to give you today are 5 baits that seem to work across the country for any species of bass. They are some of my absolute go-to finesse baits. I've talked about most of these on the channel before, but these are ones that I have tied on almost year round. Literally, I could be fishing the Mississippi River. I could be fishing Lake Okeechobee in a lot of instances. I could be fishing Lewis Smith Lake in Alabama. It doesn't seem to matter. I tend to have these baits tied on pretty much year round, and they are finesse presentations that generate bites and catch big ones. So I'm going to give you the 5 exact baits down to the color and tell you when and where I like to throw them. Honestly, these are baits that for me have saved my rear end in a lot of tournaments in the past, and I've won a lot of money on these baits. So before I do get into those though, I do want to remind you I do a bunch of lake breakdowns with fishthemoment.com. So if you're looking for a little bit of educational help on the bodies of water in your area, or maybe you're taking a vacation to a specific lake, we give you a bunch of waypoints, break down why and when to fish these with a bunch of different patterns as well as the bait choices. It really is meant to give you an idea as to where to start, and then you can replicate those for additional fishing locations throughout that lake. So check those out. Also, if you want to help the channel and you don't necessarily want a lake breakdown, just click that subscriber button if you haven't done that already. That's a great way to show your support for the channel as well. And hopefully it's information like this that will help you catch a few more bass. So let's talk finesse presentations. I've got here 5 of my absolute favorite finesse presentations. They work across the country. And we're going to start with one that, in my opinion, is potentially the most underrated. There was a time where this bait dominated, but lately it really has been forgotten about. I've talked about it on the channel before. This is a Yamamoto hula grub. Now there's both a 4-inch and a 5-inch. The difference really comes down to the tail width. This is a 5-inch, so it's a little bit wider tail. The 4-inch is a much thinner tail. In either case, you fish this on a standard football jig head, throw it on a 1/4 ounce, drag it around. You can fish this down weed lines. You can fish it on rock flats. You can fish it in current. You pretty much can fish this anywhere, and it's a finesse jig presentation that catches fish. They absolutely love a hula grub. Whether you're fishing gin clear water out on the west coast, or you're fishing weed lines up north, or you're fishing rock bluffs for spotted bass, a hula grub is one of the best baits out there. I myself tend to not to throw it as much as I should. It's just one of those baits, for whatever reason, sometimes you forget about. But man, every time you tie it on, you're like, why did I not fish this sooner? The hula grub is a killer bait. There was a time when I feel like most plastic lure companies had a skirted grub like this, but the hula grub really kind of dominated that market, and it's the mainstay for me. This is the one that I like to throw. This color specifically is a watermelon blue flake, but any of your watermelons, green pumpkin, cinnamon with black flake, or one of the other flakes is going to be the color that you're after. Just an extremely natural presentation that generates lots of strikes. Whether fish think it's a bluegill or a crayfish, I can't tell you specifically, but they eat that thing up. Okay, another one. I don't think this is really a big surprise. This is just a straight 3.3 Kitech swing impact fat. This is the Pro Blue color. That's probably my favorite color. I've got it rigged here on a 3/16 ounce 2/0 core tackle tush jig head, so it's an internally weighted head that's in the body. I really prefer that. I know I've developed the bait, but I really prefer it because it gives the bait a much more sleeker profile. It makes it look much more like a minnow versus having a jig head up at the top of it, which kind of makes the bait look bigger and bulkier and give it a double head appearance. So this is my bait of choice, but this thing catches fish year round. One of my favorite baits for taking clients, guide clients out on the water. This is one of my favorite baits for giving to Hank when we fish tournaments. You give them a small Kitech, let them go wing it around. They generally catch everything from panfish up to big bass, pike, muskie, walleye. They catch everything, but you really can't go wrong. They do tend to perform much better in clear water than in muddy water. But we know all game fish eat small minnows, and that's what a 3.3 or 2.8 fat impact, swing impact fat by Kitech does. Great presentation. You can't talk about Finesse without talking about drop shots. There's a lot of phenomenal drop shot baits out there. One of my favorites is this guy. This is a RoboWorm. This is the 4.5 inch. There's a 5 inch in the Morning Dawn color. So it's just what a lot of people refer to as your pink worm. There's a lot of variations of the Morning Dawn out there that RoboWorm makes. So there's really probably 4 or 5 different pink worms. They all tend to work very well. For some reason, this thing has the movement, the motion, and the correct buoyancy in the water to just tend to really dominate that drop shot market. You know, there's a salt layer on the bottom of it there. It tends to just move and undulate really well when it's rigged up on a drop shot bait. I don't think there's much surprise from this one, because if you watch tournament fishing, you've known for years now that guys are doing really well fishing the little pink worms, the 4.5, 5.5 inch size. Generally, I like to fish that on the little RoboWorm hook that goes specifically with it, but it's an absolute killer Finesse presentation. Why pink? I don't know, but the fish tend to really like pink in that worm specifically. The next one is one that has just grown on me this year. It's one of my absolute favorites, and that's this guy. This is a Kitech Shad Impact, the 4 inch size. I've got it rigged on a core tackle hover rig, which is one of my all-time favorite Finesse presentations at this point. If you've seen me do this or use this in other videos, you know that when you fish it on a core tackle hover rig and pull it, you actually get some side-to-side motion similar to like a lipless crankbait. So there's a flat top here, and it really gives the bait a lot of good vibration. When you let it fall, it just glides all over the place. And I have found that fish that are extremely finicky have a very difficult time turning this thing away. The little 4 inch Shad Impact by Kitech is an absolute killer when you're talking about trying to mimic a dying bait fish, especially when you pair it up with the core tackle hover rig. You know, other baits in this category really just tend to be your soft jerk baits, you know, your flukes, baits that just mimic dying bait fish. Those can be some of your absolute best anytime you're just trying to catch fish and generate some strikes. So the last technique that I feel like I have to mention is a Ned rig. And anytime you're talking about Ned rigs, it's hard to pass up on a Finesse TRD by Z-Man in just the green pumpkin color. And to go back to color, this is one of my favorites on the Shad Impact. It's AU. Just figure I'd throw that in there. The green pumpkin TRD, absolute killer on your Ned heads. I personally like to start with a much lighter Ned head, something in like that 16th ounce size. And then if you aren't getting bit on a much slower fall, I like to go with a heavier fall up to like a 1/4, 3/8, even up to a 1/2 ounce, depending on how deep I'm fishing. But the key is you either want a really slow fall or a really heavy fall. But there is something special about a tiny little TRD like this, or just your little Ned rigs. There's times when it feels like the fish just can't turn away from a little snack meal. And it's an absolute dynamite bait. One of my absolute musts, especially if you're talking about fishing around smallmouth. But those 5 baits are killers, guys. If you're looking to catch fish when other baits are not working, these 5 baits in these 5 colors should be in your tackle boxes and on your fishing poles, because they will help you catch more fish. They are proven not just by me, but by most tournament anglers out there would say, yeah, all 5 of those baits, absolute slayers. So guys, if you're not using them, give them a try. I'll put links to each of these for Tackle Warehouse if you want to check them out yourself. Assuming they have all of these, at least in those colors. Otherwise, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, new video coming out tomorrow.